more depictions here of the Egyptian afterlife, which is called the field or dimension of the blessed. Lawrence Gardner's the one that puts the take on it, that it's called the field or the dimension of the blessed. And what we see is all these afterlife sort of depictions here, all kinds of waterways, because that's how they depicted the afterlife, as these sort of canals or waterways that interconnect the star systems. And ultimately we see the boats down here emerging out of these canals, down here in the right-hand corner. And when we pull those up in detail, we see something kind of interesting. We see a ship emerging from these waters. It's a dual-headed serpent ship with the stairway to heaven mounted upon it. This is another representation of the ship of eternity. Here's the same ship now with the same stairway to heaven ascending into the stars. So the idea is that these ships of eternities were actually equated with not only with the concept of eternity, but also with the stairway to heaven. Ultimately, you can see it as a symbol of ascension, because that's what we're talking about here, is the Pharaoh's ascension into the stars as a star being. This is the way modern science depicts a wormhole. A wormhole is a transportation system. The idea is that you could enter the mouth of the wormhole here and exit some vast distance of space-time on the other end as if there were nothing in between. And something that I noticed a number of years ago and started writing about is that when you look at the way the ancient Egyptians portrayed the ship of eternity, here portrayed in a simple hieroglyph with the ship, with this sanctuary on the center here, water, frequency, vibration, that matches almost precisely the way modern science portrays a wormhole. Now, when I first started going to Egypt and talking with the guides about this and Egyptologists, they basically laughed. They said there's no way that the ancient Egyptian ship of eternity, the ark of the millions of years, is a wormhole. And my question was, well, why couldn't it be? I mean, you're talking about a vastly advanced civilization, perhaps thousands of years in advance of us. Why couldn't they have traveled the stars through wormholes? You come here to the ancient Egyptian Book of the Dead. This is Ra aboard his ship of eternity. He's preparing to sail into this gate of stars that I prefer to call a Stargate. And the inscription that accompanies this vignette says, "I, even I, know the hidden ways to the doors of the field of Eru." And once again, Lawrence Gardner tells us that the field of Eru is actually known as the dimension of the blessed. So when we look at this cartoon here, what we're asked to consider is that this is the god, the Pharaoh, sailing upon his ship of eternity into another dimension, the dimension of the blessed. This is perfectly equatable with what modern science thinks about a wormhole as an interdimensional interdimensional transportation system. And once again, when I look at the way modern science portrays the wormhole and look at the way the ancient Egyptians portrayed the ship of eternity going into another dimension, we pose the question, is this in fact what is being described here? If it is, how can this be? Well, the answer, as I suggested a moment ago, is that we're possibly talking about a vastly advanced civilization that came here and left this imagery for us. And the second thing is that we are finally coming to a place of advancement where we can begin to interpret what this is actually saying. That the ship of eternity, the ark of the millions of years, is a wormhole. And this is how the gods travel throughout the stars. So here's NASA's recent image from the 1990s of a warp craft, their term, preparing to enter this wormhole, also their term, and sail from one point in space-time to another. And I compare that now with the ancient Egyptian cartoon of Ra aboard his ship of eternity sailing into a gate of stars. And it looks to me like these two illustrations tell exactly the same story. They portray the identical concept. The difference is, and this is the key difference, NASA thinks that they're actually going to cram you and I into one of these tin cans and spit us through one of these wormholes. They actually believe that that's going to happen. But the ancients did not believe that. They did not believe that the human body was going to go through the gate of eternity, the field or dimension of the blessed. They believed that you're going to leave this fleshly body behind, that this body was in fact just an apparatus that would help you get through that gateway, and that it would be discarded. In fact, it would be transformed because you would be going through this gate as a light being or as a star being. And that is the main distinction between what the ancients believed about these gates and what modern science believes. And I think modern science better start going back and taking a look at the ancient conception of these gates if they ever expect to create such of a transportation system. This is Dendera. This is the temple of love and joy of the goddess Hathor, the goddess of love and joy. It was brand new at the time of Jesus and Mary Magdalene. So when they come to this place, they're coming to a place named Dendera, which means house of bread. House of bread. There is another biblical place name that also means house of bread. Does anybody happen to know what that is? I'm sorry? I heard two different place names. Bethlehem. Bethlehem. Okay, Bethlehem. Yeah. And what was your interpretation of it? Temple of bread. House of bread. And the thing is that biblical scholars can't agree where Bethlehem was located. So they just say, well, here's Bethlehem right here, like many of the biblical place names. They're just assumed that these are the places because tradition says that. For my money, I want to take you to Dendera, which is an actual place that everybody agrees is called Dendera, and it means house of bread, and it's brand new at the time of Jesus and Mary Magdalene. Makes me wonder if this is the actual real Bethlehem. Remember, Joseph and Mary immediately escaped to Egypt. So maybe the biblical chronology is just a little bit off. Maybe he's born in Egypt as well, and they didn't just go to Egypt, and they go to this place here, the house of bread, Dendera, the temple of love and joy. Makes a lot more sense to me. And so when we go to Dendera and we look up in the ceiling, this is what we see. This is the famous astrological ceiling at Dendera. What we see are the various signs of the zodiac represented, and we also see the gods, including this is Aquarius here, aboard the ship of the gods, the ship of eternity, the ark of the millions of years. And once again, when we look at this, we see this very distinctive shape. We see lotus blossoms on either side of the ship here. The ancient Egyptian word for lotus means gate. So in fact, what we're looking at here is a ship with gates on either end of the ship. And we see the gods sailing in the stars quite happily aboard their ships of eternity. And again, what I started suggesting to the Egyptian guides was that these are symbolic of wormholes. And at first they laughed. But now, every time I go back to the house of bread, they, oh yeah, you're the wormhole guy. You know, we've been looking at that. And we think you might have something there. Do you have any new information about that? Or can you send us articles? So I've been starting to send articles to the guides, and they're starting to incorporate this. And it's really fulfilling because, you know, like many of these places, there's a great mystery. And if the guides are honest, they're going to acknowledge that they really don't know everything about these temples. They're there day in and day out, but they still don't know the true secrets of them. So here what we have is Osiris in his resurrected form as Orion on his ship of eternity. He's got this incredible magic stick in his hand. It's called the Uaz. There's a phenomenal alchemical author or writer about ancient alchemy named Schwaller de Lubitz. And Schwaller took a look at that magic stick when he was in Egypt and came to the conclusion that this stick is a conductor of what he called a vivifying sap, and that it was actually came from Sirius, and it was helping to feed the light body form of Osiris, as here portrayed as Orion. And I think that's very interesting because today we are in the process of, well, we just fired up our new time machine, CERN, where they're looking for an elusive subatomic particle they call the God particle. They think it's going to fill in our physics kit and be an answer to many of the physics problems. When I started looking at this idea of the cosmic sap, especially when the Mayans were talking about it, they describe a cosmic sap that will be coming out of a serpent rope, or what could actually be a wormhole in 2012. And so I Googled cosmic sap. And the first thing I saw was the entry about the Mayan Itzam, the shaman who works with the cosmic sap. And then a couple of lines down, it referred to high-energy cosmic phenomena. And it was then that it dawned on me that what if SAP is actually an acronym for subatomic particle? What we need is a subatomic particle and a particle accelerator to keep the mouth of the wormhole open. So let's say that, yeah, Osiris has got some kind of magic stick here that he's utilizing to manufacture or perhaps create or channel some some subatomic particle from Sirius, and it's helping to keep the mouth of this wormhole open and enabling him to travel aboard his ship of eternity. Again, the correspondence between the way modern science portrays the wormhole and Osiris or Orion's ship of eternity with his magic stick.